and welcome to the No Money Marketing Podcast, where we talk about how you can build a brand even when your competitors have a whole lot more cash to spend. I'm your host, Jessie Paul, and I've written 2 books on this topic. We're celebrating International Women's Day by showcasing amazing female trailblazers. I'm really thrilled to have with us Payal, Nath, and Radhika Mahadevan as my guests today. Payal is the founder and CEO of Kadam Haat, a vibrant enterprise dedicated to reviving traditional grass weaving as a craft. She's recognized as an iconic world leader by the World Economic Forum and a transformative figure in India by Niti Aayog. And Radhika Mahadevan is the founder and CEO of Birdsong, a brand that's rejuvenating traditional wellness remedies for the modern age. Radhika was in the marketing team at Wipro, where we met, and then moved to the social impact sector with Azim Premji University prior to founding Birdsong. Payal, do you like my bag?
I love it.
So you were telling me that this is now the Zenith Amman viral bag. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I had no idea that Zenith was a customer of ours. We saw it pop up on her social media, Instagram.
Oh, wow.
So she's been our customer for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And any new bag that we launched, she's the first one to buy that. And that opened up, that means we didn't have to sort of pay money to the sellers. But if the product speaks, people buy.
Right.
And of course, with this timeless, fashionista, Zinat Aman, she carries this bag in an airport or wherever she goes. These young girls, they already look up to her, right? I think even my daughter, we all look up to her, fashion sense, sensibility. So they feel so proud that Zinat Aman looks at them if they're carrying the same bag as she is. So it's, I think it's now become the Zinat Aman bag. It's
now the Zenith Amman bag. I have one too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you got influencer for free, basically.
Absolutely.
No money marketing.
The product is unique. I guess it sort of catches.
Yeah. You've got it right, and therefore you don't need to do more. Okay. So Radhika, I have one of your things as well. So, I mean, I know you do a lot more than this, but this is kind of cute. I've noticed that because with this bag, you also sell these things in retail.
Yeah.
So you kind of made the choice to do B2B and B2C.
Yeah.
So what was the thinking behind that?
So I think, Jesse, when you're a fairly young brand, and you want to be seen by your customer, you want to showcase your product, you want them to use it, all of that. But when you are a young brand, resources are a challenge in some ways, and that's where the whole no money marketing piece kind of comes in. So we thought about where will our customers be, right? Where do we meet our customers? So Birdsong products have, premium products, quality ingredients, clean wellness products. And we started thinking about where else do our customers, where can they find us? Where do they go? What do they do? What are their lives? Our customers are probably in premium luxury hotels, 5-star hotels, in spas, in airports. So that was a good way for us to reach these people. And, of course, the digital space is the way, we kind of reach our customers today. But that's also a fairly expensive exercise, right? For a young brand. And some of the products that we have, like our toothpaste, we're taking on the really big guys, right? Like it's a category that's iconic, been around forever. So how do we do things differently? And that's really when we started talking about, looking at B2B, looking at our customers in hotels, etc. And that was the thinking, like how do we do things a little differently, and how do we enter our customers' lives in a, sort of an innovative manner.
So you're saying that your B2B arm, the business to business arm, is a marketing effort for the D2C?
Absolutely. And sampling, right? For a consumer product, your consumer has to use it and try it. And how do we do that, right? You can't just be on the roads and be sampling a premium product. So B2B was an excellent way for our consumers to use our product as well. So you have a toothpaste, or you have a, body butter, or, the loofah that you were showing. Yeah, B2B was a great way for them to try it out as well.
She mentioned digital marketing, and I was kind of shocked one day. I was on Facebook, and suddenly I hear Payal, hi, I'm Payal, and there's an app by Payal. So, how did you actually manage to get seen in this pretty crowded space? And any tips you want to give entrepreneurs like Radhika on how to really crack that?
I think you have to thank the team that I have, which is a Gen Z team, who sort of handle the marketing and the operations right now. And the data scientists as well in the company. So to understand or crack the algorithms, you have to move off the a search engine, and then you figure it out. And then I was told that if the founder comes himself or herself, Facebook will show it to so much more customers. So that's the reason I came. But that's another story added to it, because I have silver hair and I'm the boomer. So when I said this, and of course, a lot of people saw it. But then Facebook automatically started to show it to my age people. So the huge sale that happened, excellent ROAS that we got with my me speaking authentically about the brand. Everybody wants authentic.
Yeah, I think, that slightly older style of communication, the millennials, communication of highly curated in terms of aesthetics, in terms of how you present yourself, your company, your brand. I think some of those are slipping away to this kind of authenticity.
But the audience that we wanted to, a target audience that we wanted to come in was also Gen Z and millennials. So we were losing.
Exactly.
Next thing that we did, that's again our team, smart team, is said, you make sure your daughter, who's a Gen Z, she come in with the same bag, and I was talking how I would use it and about the source as to how it is made, and my daughter was saying how would she use. She was wearing a Western dress, where she would take it. For her, it was a statement bag, but for me, it was a functional bag. Both talking about the same, and then the sales, we managed to crack both. Because now Facebook was showing to both the audiences.
Ooh,
So, so it's exciting that somehow the Gen Z people who understand the advantage.
Totally. So the boomer auntie comes up because I was actually saying that, this shouldn't end up as a boomer auntie podcast. And the way around that is to have a Gen Z crew. So to do the makeup, the lighting, the filming, the editing, everything is by people actually just about 18 and below. Wow. So, it's we hope that the algorithm heard that as well. Because I think the way things are changing and the way things are, like fashion trends, everything, if you kind of sit still, you're just so old now.
Yeah.
And there's no market. Like everybody wants to wear the funky clothes. Yeah. Right? So, and, so many things are changing in the fashion and the beauty space. I was looking at the Nykaa beauty trends report, and we are like the fastest growing market now for beauty and personal care. 24 billion by 2028. Like for a country where I think for the longest you just had Pond's Dream Flower talc and one red lipstick which you could have for your wedding, and then you use it for the next 30 years.
So,
and then you can tell people what you mean by beauty care in the context of Birdsong.
right. So our entire attempt is to basically, how do you look at everyday wellness rituals, beauty rituals, right? From, the beginning of the day till you actually wind up in the evening, right? So clean products, high quality, high performance products, all of that. In terms of the numbers, I mean, we in terms of customers, we're 15,000 plus right now, ship around 5,000 plus units every month. And, what has sort of worked for us in some ways is to look at wellness as a routine, to look at, how you really elevate every single sort of product as an experience, right? So how you sort of elevate those moments in your lives, everyday life. So something that we keep talking about is how do you bring joy, calm, and clarity in your lives, right? So every Birdsong product that comes into our customers' life, we want it to not just be a product, but be an experience. So that's something that we, sort of try and drive. So that means it's not just the product or the benefits or the claims, but it's also the packaging, it's also the look and feel, it's also how it reaches them, all of that. So I think basically, particularly if you are in a world that's very fast changing, I think you have to be able to do all of that and provide innovation at a product level. Quality, of course, that goes without speaking. I think that's fundamental, but innovation at a product level. So we're also looking at not just individual products, but how do they come together like a self-care kit, right? Like a hamper. And how do we then look at specific categories? How do we really look at building innovation through product bundling, all of that?
Wow. Do you see some of that as well? This whole stepification of everything, like you have occasions for this, occasions for that. Are you seeing any of that?
I mean, the same product is being bought. See, okay, so the versatility of the same product, yes, we see. We have one product, like the mesh package showed us. It's being bought, I think it's being bought, like I mentioned, for me or my generation, as a lunch bag with softer colors. But I'm seeing the same bag being bought as a statement bag, and the same bag as a work bag. So I see, and also as a hamper bag for weddings. So I see the same sort of bag being versatile, and being used in multiple ways.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one thing I think.
Yeah, it's like in the olden days, you had a school bag, which was it.
Yeah.
There was a shopping bag, and that was it. You know,
Yeah.
you just had these 3 bags or something hanging on your door,
Yeah.
and you took the occasional
Absolutely.
one. You know, one of the frameworks I use to map a product is the ABCD model. So A is for the added value, B is for the behavioral change required to use that particular product. C is how easy, like complexity of explaining the value of this particular product. And D is diffusion, like how easy is it that, the product sells itself. Like you say that, for example, the bag is very easy because clearly, I mean, someone carries it and they ask you, so, but beauty is a little bit different. So I want to kind of ask both of you, what do you think has really been working amongst these levers for your brand? How did you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to. So, I mean, I think in terms of mesh bag that you showed us, we have 3 product categories. We have bags, and by the way, we make everything out of grass, for those who don't know. So, we have bags for with the grass. The people who love the bags. With the bag comes, if you sold out that grass because you love it, because you use it, then we have something for your table. We have roti boxes, which you use every day. And then for your work, we have laptop sleeves. And then we have other things as well. And then we have your storage and your laundry as well with the same grass. So the versatility of the material is something that we worked on. But before that, somebody has to like the grass also, right? So to be able to add value with that grass to people's lives, I think first we go back inside the supply chain is to understand the material and the strengths of that material. And then we position it to the customer and how is it going to help the customer to fulfill the need that they had of sustainability, let's say, in this case. Like being able to stand out, touch your grass, because then you say grass.
It's such meanings these days.
Yeah, I mean, touch of grass is true, metaphorically as well as literally with our bags.
Yeah.
And it's soothing, and it's calming, like you mentioned calming, right?
Yeah.
It's wellness thing. So a bag, which is your go-to bag, whether you're going to beach, you're going to office or wherever, but it also offers that touch of grass feel, with that calming feel. So the consumers do feel something which is nice.
Yeah.
But apart from that, functionality, somehow when we did a little bit of research as sort of consumer, research, yes. So we got to know 41% of these customers who first bought our products on the functional.
Wow.
So then when they get to know the story and everything, they become your loyal customers. The repeat rates go high. So functionality, if you know that these customers, today's consumers, will look at functionality priority. So we say that this bag is like a mother's womb. It just expands as much as you want.
Wow.
And most of the toys that you buy, and you pull it out again, comes back into shape. And talking about the elasticity, the plasticity, the strength, this is made of that grass, which British Army, in the colonial days, used to pull their artillery with.
Wow.
So believe me, if you put 80 kilos in it and it'll stand, it will not give way. So the strength, the functionality, all of these totes and hobos, these bags, they normally slouch. But this one will be structured.
Yeah, you're right. It's just standing up there. It's really cool.
So they have functions which get attracted to, and then of course the color and the design and the style and the lightweight and all of that. Yeah.
So before we move on, I wanted to ask you, you started your life as a shoe designer.
Yeah.
How does that fit into this, and what happened to the shoe designer?
Yeah, I think you plan something and life plans something else. Yes, but I think what I could bring from the shoe design life, this life, was a time motion study about even 0.5 millimeter wrong if you make your shoe will bite you. Okay, so to be able to make with precision a product which is handmade and in the unorganized sector. So I could add value there in the community and create a supply chain of the makers who make them, which is sort of creating a gig economy while they work from home in their respective villages. So I think I brought it there and I'm excited. And with shoes I could work only with a few millimeters there for aesthetics. Foot remains the same size, just the French or the British or the Indian size or whatever. But here we could work in any space.
Okay.
And it was exciting.
how we sort of imagine our products and the whole brand experience, right? Right from the beginning. We wanted the products to have the experience of modern palette, texture, taste, smell, all of these, right? All these sensory perceptions, right? So we're very much rooted in a more classical Ayurveda, naturopathy, sort of an intergenerational understanding of health remedies, which, our country is abundant in, and my own family comes with that understanding, and that was really the genesis. How do we really bring this in a much more modern day context? So when we look at all of these elements of whether it's the taste, smell, texture, and how do we make that more interesting and more new age, I think the whole convenience aspect also sort of comes in. So we were discussing the other day about a lip balm, right?
Yeah.
You use a lip balm not just at home and not just in your handbag or in your dresser or wherever, but one of the things that perhaps nobody's thought of is you use it in your car, right? So how do we bring that in terms of that element of actual convenience, and therefore packaging, and therefore innovation in terms of the size, in terms of packaging, in terms of usability. So I think these are very interesting times to be in the in the beauty, wellness, skin, hair, all of this sort of intersection of all of this, because while the trends might look like something that's very quick on the uptake and also quick in terms of dying off, I think there are certain fundamental ways in which you can be seamlessly a part of your consumers' lives, in which a lot of other categories and segments can't really be. So you really want to work much more on that element. Yeah.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot. In hindsight, which marketing tool or campaign do you think was a disaster?
Oh.
Not value for money. May have worked, but not value for money.
I think spending money on performance marketing has killed us. We tried it for a bit. And,
It didn't perform.
I think without knowing the nuances and just sort of putting money and going with it does not work for sure. So if I'm saying that yes, it's worked, but it can really be a bomb as well. It really did also. We bought a lot of money.
Metrics, that they don't necessarily need to convert. And you won't find out till it's too late.
And for us, more than a tool, I think this whole idea of a large agency handling your so-called end-to-end marketing, right? So everything from, for a D2C brand, from performance marketing to social media to email marketing, all of that. I think that model has not worked. So I think you need to build that capability in-house. You need to work with individual specialists in each of these areas. So this whole promise of this, this marketing agency.
I don't know what doesn't work. It would work. It's just that agency doesn't function that way anymore.
Yeah.
Every field is so specialized.
Yeah, absolutely.
That they don't talk to the other team, and they haven't got any experience in the other field.
The other field at all.
I think it's more data driven. But they don't look at the little sensitivity of the consumer as to what would they want to see. They just look at the data and that's it.
And I feel like they're very slow to adapt as well. I feel like the wheels of the whole, an agency model to start working together and to kind of deliver.
You're okay to have an agency if you just want to press the buttons. But you definitely need somebody internally who is driven, who's passionate about your brand, who understands your product and understands the consumer. So we'll be there.
So if you were to give advice to somebody who's starting a brand today, what would you tell them based on your example?
We say that get mission-driven people in your team.
Okay.
And they have to believe in you and the product both. And they should be using your product to be able to connect with it and then give you sincere, and work with it as it's their own. I think that's and that there are people who work just for the sake of money. There are people wanting to do some meaningful work. You could hire them and make them a part of your company. I would say, and I think that goes much longer.
Okay.
I would agree with that, and I would also add in our wellness beauty category. Look at hiring people. I'm using the term outrageous, but what I mean is a fairly different orientation. I think that's interesting, whether it's in the product or the advertising or the marketing aspect of it.
Interesting. Early adopters. Okay, and how do you identify them? This is easy to say, but how do you find out a person is mission driven or early adopter? What's working for you?
I mean, again, it's an outrageous, but I use sometimes to hire people. I say that, I was kidnapped once in the villages when I was working.
Okay.
So, if the founder speaks to the person who is interviewing, and if you were given this position and if you had to go there, you know whether he's bored or not. And he's ready to take on if he's sent to the field to do this, or to cover a story or whatever. Would the person know it or pose those questions which seem a little uncomfortable, and then you know whether this person is actually so vested in what you believe in as much, and then you sort of know this is one way that he's trying to
Okay. Okay. So Boomerang has suddenly burst out of the bubble. I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole, Gen Z is driving a lot of the new trends, and they also have the purchasing power now to some extent. I don't know how much you're seeing that. And, what's really for you, you had a collab pitch with my 15-year-old daughter who's part of the crew today. And how's that working? Do you see Gen Z collabs in general going forward, or is that a market for you? Are you seeing a change?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it goes back to what I was talking about a little earlier about authenticity. I think Gen Z is all about authenticity. I genuinely feel Gen Zs are expecting brands to be way more authentic than ever before, and that's a good thing because I think brands are sort of, like I mentioned, coming out of this very filtered, curated, put together kind of, presentation, communication, marketing to a much more unfiltered, much more raw, relatable sort of communication. And I feel increasingly that's the way things are going to pan out in terms of how particularly direct-to-consumer brands do business. So the collab itself, right? So I think the understanding of how do we create something that's interesting, innovative, different with a category that can have, certain products, but how do we put this together? The brands that we have worked with now, the B2B brands that we're working with now, have really loved what the 15-year-old has created. So I think, it's their world to own, right? What we have built, what millennials, boomers, etc. have built, it exists. But I think it's their world now, and I think brands increasingly are not going to have a choice. They have to be able to kind of work in a world which is much more sort of unfiltered, raw, out there, much more relatable, way more innovative.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that anyone who grew up before 92, as in we are scarcity based.
Yeah.
Right. So your mindset has been carved to be scarcity based. You're not looking for luxury. You've been brought up to believe it's a crime to, pamper yourself. A lot of stuff is there loaded into the fact that you grew up in a scarcity economy. And I think part of the appeal of Gen Z for a brand is that they're not bound by those issues. And it's not an income based thing. It is just that they have a bigger belief that tomorrow is better than today. So I can take chance, I can play around with my clothes, it's okay, I'm not a conformist.
Yeah.
There's much more of that across the spectrum.
They're more secure, so they can take more chances.
Risks, yeah. So what do you see as a Gen Z? And you talked a little bit about it.
For my entire team, I tell you, I am in my mid-50s, but the average age in my office is 27. And it's 27 because of me.
Stands for you.
So yeah, I think I'm sort of always working with so many Gen Zs around me, and I'm that bro.
Yeah, you were actually telling me that one of your pitches was literally a video of...
Exactly, this was an IM for a fundraising pitch. So I just went with my colleague who's a CEO. He's also a Gen Z, but both of us went together, and I said no presentations today, just still in video. And I just showed a raw video cut of a Gen Z girl who bought this, and we spoke about this for airport scene with Mahadevan. And how Zinathan looked at her because they were carrying the same bag with the same handler. She just spoke of that, and I just recorded that with her permission. I just ran that, and that's it. And then it sort of made that magic.
Yeah.
So people connect.
Yeah.
First is connection that you make. So these sort of connections, I feel the kids are so good with making those connections. And yeah, so absolutely. I think I'm just loving my team. The way they come up with these social media posts, the way they think of a strategy. I mean, half the box thinking, right? Because they're not.
So let's talk a little bit about the money. Both of you run multi-crore for-profit made-in-India businesses, but which also impact the less fortunate. And, so you're also working to retaining ancient knowledge, whether it's in glass weaving or in our natural skincare. There's a lot of a heritage which is also captured in these brands. So, Radhika, you want to touch a little bit about how does your business impact the less privileged?
Yeah, I mean, like you rightly said, my own background, I worked in the corporate space for a very long time, then I moved to the non-profit space. So my whole life has been about how do I get these two things together, right? That's been my life's mission. How do you really build businesses that have a very strong social impact? But I'm also very clear that you need money to have that social impact, right? Even to do charity, you need money. So I think both these things are very, very important. So, when we started Birdsong, we were focused on these two elements. One is definitely in terms of preserving certain cultural health knowledge systems and base and remedies of the country. The second thing, a very conscious choice was that we basically look at generating meaningful livelihoods for women communities, women in general, and 85% of all of Birdsong's processes, supply chain, everything is run by women. So that we're very happy about. I also feel like some of these, so if you're very clear about it being an intrinsic part of what you are and who you are and the fundamental philosophy of the company or the brand, I think there are certain choices that you can make to stick to this. So, currently I don't own, my production facility. It's a contract manufacturing setup. However, the way we've entered into contracts with manufacturers is that, every product that is made there should have women making our products. Right? Okay. We also work with, this Hosa Velugu Artisans Foundation, where some of our packaging, some of our, a lot of the work around the product is done by this non-profit organization, and they work with marginalized community groups in Karnataka. I feel like there are choices that you can make that, get you, of course, on the path of making money, but also continue to have the kind of social impact you want to have in whichever.
I personally do think that there has to be a commercial angle for growth to happen.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are in formulated products, right? One of our products is a pharma grade product. It's a toothpick, something you're putting in your mouth. So in terms of quality, in terms of standards, we have to manufacture it in a certified facility. So then how do you bring in this entire aspect of, engaging with women? So that's when we thought of, okay, hold on, you have men and women in your factory. How about our line is run, managed, worked upon only by women?
So Payal work with 10,000 artisans today. So how do you manage the quality?
Okay, so I think the shoe design question is in here. So in a shoe, you can have a millimeter wrong, right? And then you screw your fitting in your foot. So the same sort of learning we brought it into our women's supply chain to make these products. So, but before we speak about this, I just want to go back a little bit. So now when I left the shoe design, I joined the Ministry of Commerce as a consultant towards how design could help the communities. So I started the NGO because that's that time I felt that the selling would come much later. We need to set the supply chain first. Market will happen if it's a good product. But if this training is not done properly, there's no point trying to market something which you're not sure of in terms of quality or scalability. So the 20 years journey before we started the brand has been in building the supply chain.
Wow.
So 10,000 people training plus more are joining us because you see the change that's happened in their lives.
You're going to 1 million artisans, which is like amazing, big.
But 20 years is incredible. What a journey. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's taken a lot of time even to crack and understand because nobody had walked that path. Nobody had done this in the past. And I went to study how Indonesia done it, how Malaysia done it, how Vietnam, China, various countries. But their government policies were slightly different from ours. So what is it in our capacity with whatever we do? How could we bring in that change? So it took us 20 years. But wow. But I mean, there was a lot of learning at every step.
End of 20 years, such mastery you would have had on
You
know,
give us a grasp and we can actually tell you that what, I mean, it doesn't even have to go to IIT Kharagpur lab now. We can sort of understand what we can do with this grasp. So I guess the supply chain thing is the most difficult to crack, especially because it's not a factory production.
Yeah.
And the second thing is the human relationship, connections. Now, because it's not supervised by somebody. That means that these people have to be self-driven and they have to be honest to themselves and with the product that they're making. So rewiring of the brain of the people sort of create craft managers from within them, which means that basically teaching them how to make a product from scratch and not the way that they were doing it for centuries.
Communities that were always working with this kind
Not
of material,
always. Not, some were, some were not. Like World Bank gave us 600 people to work with, but they were all basketry makers.
Okay.
HCA Foundation gave us 500 women to work with who had done nothing before. So every time it's a very different area that is given, and that is why we expanded our understanding of how to deal with people. So first we're dealing with people and then processes. And we sort of managed to crack it here.
any disasters.
Nahi.
Fit that in. I mean, particularly when you're in the product business, I mean, everything, right? From printing screw-ups to, we had this product idea of something called a Kui, which is basically a massage potli and like a pain relief massage potli. And that's something that we were very excited about because you would only find that in Ayurveda places, right? But we were like, oh, you can bring this home, and it's a concoction of a whole bunch of herbs, and you put some oil, and it's like a really good pain relieving product. Worked very well when we tried it a couple of times, and the one time that we were working with multiple material and everything, it was the first time ever that the factory, one room in the factory caught fire because of our product. Wow. So
Okay.
it just blew up in it's safer. So yeah, I mean, when you're in the product business, there's all kinds of exciting goof ups that happen. Yeah.
Okay. Story's really good, but I think the kidnapping might top it.
Yeah, I think more than kidnapping, I want to speak about this mesh bag, right? When we were training the community. So, of course, they were speaking their own language. So, Larissa, when they were explaining, of course, they don't want to do anything to do with the measuring thing. Just whatever we try to teach them, whatever. So, they explain and Gote Haat. Gote Haat. So, this is something which they translated when they explained something. Gote Haat means it's measured from here to here.
Okay.
Now there are about 100 ladies working. Now everybody's Gote Haat is going to be different. So 5,000 bags that come out and all are different sizes. so then we realized
Handmade.
Yeah. So that's
so the entire truck is ready to take the goods to the port, and then because this was our export shipment, and then they comes and everything because nothing matches. So this was the first experience when we actually put in the frames. Now the frames are exactly the same size. They just have to. Somebody makes a choti, so one village would make the choti. The legs are this is made of. Somebody would tie that in a formulation that we sort of train that village to. The third village would actually weave it within that frame, so it's just that size. So you learn.
You're like the Henry Ford of bags. So I want to talk a little bit about women's leadership. Growing up, when you said businessman, it conjured up this image of this slightly shifty fellow with, oil and safari suit and sharp hustler kind of thing. And now, we have classy ladies like you who are thriving in business. But I would imagine it's been a little bit of a transforming journey for you. So hustle is still, India still does prize hustle. So what's the kind of transformation you guys have had to make to be successful?
I think for me, I mean, as a woman, if you're asking, or as a person?
As a person.
Yeah. I think coming out of comfort in a lot of spaces, which like product is my comfort, product design is my comfort. But now to be able to work with numbers, now to be able to work with certain things which I've always stayed away from because there was always somebody in the larger team who handled this. But as a founder or as a person, so you need to own everything as well. So that has been it's exciting. It's been growth, I would say. It's an exciting growth.
And have you found a mentor in this journey?
Many.
Okay.
Many kids.
Okay.
The younger people, but then I mean, in terms of in the grass space, for example, the grass space is very hard. But in the sort of business space, there are many, right? So everybody gives their 2 bits, and whatever works. But I've sort of been, I think there again, the silver in the hair is unleashed, the male. So it helps to sort of have the wisdom to be able to take what it's required for me,
Right.
and process it. So that AI can't.
I think this very public sort of face that a founder has to have, I think that is the big transformation for me. A fairly private, introverted person. That's been the big change that I've had to make, and that's the definite coming out, of my comfort zone aspect for me. The fairly public profile that founders need to have today, right? Because that goes without saying. And the second question was around mentors, right?
Or the support network.
Mentors, quite a few, even in my short-lived entrepreneurial journey, quite a few. Support network, I mean, sort of playing to the cliches, but I have a young child, so support network in terms of my parents, my in-laws, all of that, very, very critical. I don't think Birdsong would exist without that. That definitely, I would say, that kind of support network.
But I always make this statement, I don't know, I love to say this, I love to say it in your show as well, that we women have an extra X factor.
What's
we have
that?
an extra X chromosome. It's just designed by God to be able to handle whatever, throw it away and you can manage it. So I guess whatever, I think coming out of comfort was also not that tough. It was okay. We just have to align ourselves slightly, which we are so used to and so comfortable with. And we are required to. The way we sort of balance.
Look at us, boomer aunties doing podcasts now. Way out of comfort zone. I would have sent you an email and you could have just replied to the interview on email and we'd be good. So, what advice would you give an aspiring Gen Z, Gen A, whatever business person? It's actually Gen Alpha. People are telling me that,
It's true.
50-year-olds are all running around giving business props now.
Women, as in
What advice would you give Gen Z women?
women. Firstly, I really admire the very sort of, I feel like Gen Z women are extremely bold, extremely out there, and I really admire that. And I think with every generation, that's happening even more. So, the only advice I would kind of give Gen Z women is to build more resilience, because background noise is always going to be there. So when you're bored and you're doing interesting things and you're doing things differently, you just have to be able to have a lot of sort of inner resolve and resilience to get through, whether it's work, personal life, whatever, all of that.
I mean, if in terms of an advice, sometimes they do get a little disturbed, not undermined, but a little disturbed by the previous generation and the baggage that they bring in. And how to deal with that. It's something which I feel sometimes it's a little bit difficult for them to manage. So just to learn how to a little bit of diplomacy to be able to handle it. And they're ready more evolved.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like I have more advice for Gen Z men.
Feel free.
Because I feel like, Gen Z women are sort of this entire, sort of gender role of who provides. It's all getting turned on its head, right? So women are working, women are providing for themselves. I very strongly feel the future is definitely going to be fiercely female. So where do Gen Z men, how do they look at, where they come in this picture, right? Like, what is it beyond being a provider can you be, right? We need to talk to our boys and we need to talk to our sons and we need to talk to Gen Z boys about, how women have been great allies for a very, very long time for men. So how can you do the same for women? Forward. So I feel like, yeah, I think that needs to be spoken about a little.
Teaching men to be allies.
The colleagues, the team, and everything. And I always say thanks to his mom because he was raised that way. So, yeah, to your point, not only is the bringing, so we do play a big role. Women play a big role in bringing up some good men.
Okay. So there was a couple of audience questions. So one question really was that is it possible to build a brand frugally? And if yes, one tip you would like to share?
Frugal, yeah. I mean, if you're not in a hurry to grow, even if you know that the huge market that exists, then it's possible, yes. And like the way she's doing, B2B and B2C to balance that, which is a perfect way. But then it takes time, and it's possible, what I'd say. And yeah, I guess I'll come back later.
Yeah, I think it is possible, Jesse. I think this was a part of your book or some seminar or some discussions that we had. I think every founder, every business, and maybe even every product has that one edge that you need to find, right? You need to find that one thing that differentiates you from somebody else. So, for example, the reason I'm talking about, if I were to take a live sort of example, the reason I'm talking about B2B and the reason why we are in hospitality today is because my first job was in the hospitality space, right? So that's my background, right? So I understand what luxury hospitality requires. I have those contacts. We have a very strong product. And so, the edge of those two is this intersection that we have played into, right? That I don't have the kind of resources to go, to compete with the big boys on the D2C, on the spends, on the, digital, the thing. So how do I look at something else? So I really feel like every business, every founder, because a lot of businesses today are so founder-led, right? So between you, your experience, the product, the company, I feel like you need to find that middle of the Venn diagram which really differentiates you from others. And that is a way to do this, this frugal.
So you're basically bottling the added value.
Yeah. Which nobody else can bring.
Right.
Which nobody else has. Which no other company, brand, product, founder can have.
But it's also possible to be sort of operationally efficient if you're mindful, I guess, in your business. It's possible just through systems.
Yeah, that of course, yeah.
Mentorship or through your, like you said, some experience or some, So bringing in those kind of people in the team to bring in operational efficiency. Possible.
Okay, so now we're moving into the rapid fire round. Okay. Who would like to go first? You want to go? Okay. Are you ready?
I'm not sure.
Do you identify as a boomer auntie?
No, I'm a millennial, Jesse.
Okay.
Yeah, I should get it.
Next. What's different about the
Millennial auntie anyway. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
What's different about the Gen Z customer?
I think they're way more authentic.
Okay.
They're looking for authentic experiences.
3 things in your handbag that you love.
The Birdsong lip balm, my car keys, and my wallet.
You had a chance to sell 3 birds on
That's an oversight.
Insta or WhatsApp?
WhatsApp for sure. I think India does business on WhatsApp. So, yeah.
Will AI take your job?
No way. It's too complicated, too uncertain, too risky.
Your birthday's
Yeah, exactly. Right? So, uncertainty. AI can't handle this level of uncertainty.
And your take on working 60 hours a week?
Oh, I think that's a ridiculous debate because firstly, nobody's productive if you're working 10 hours. What is that? 10 hours a day. 1. 2, I think there is a nuance in this. So for founders like me, yes, 60 hours. We may have to work more than 60 hours. But for an average employee, where the rewards are not that high, why would they want to? Make
Changes to it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Like you, Payal, do you identify as a boomer auntie?
Bro coding.
Okay, what's different about the Gen Z customer?
Far more authentic. What they like, sustainability, but at an affordable price.
Okay. 3 things in your handbag that you love.
I love my bag,
Yeah.
my own bag for sure. And of course, I think I always carry a bottle, a water, book, Spend my time I would like to read a book. So yeah, so just the three things.
Okay.
Like watch what?
Insta or WhatsApp?
Instagram works better for us,
Mm-hmm.
but I work better in WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will AI take your job?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And your take on working 60 hours a week?
I think we don't even count hours when we're working, right? And we enjoy it so much. It's not just the founder, my entire team. Even at 2 o'clock, there's Minal or Lubna or Ayushi, the core team that get some idea and then, bro, we got this idea. And at 2 o'clock, ding, 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 the phone is.
An office, is it, bro?
They call you bro. They call me bro, they call me dude, and I don't know what now. They also call me Payal Didi, and some call me ma'am. And there's sometimes a fight between the older people who've been there around, like the NGO. How can he call ma'am bro? They think, it's interesting. So the whole thing is, it's
Nice.
fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun.
Okay, so thank you both for
Thank you, Jesse.
very, very fun afternoon engagement.
Is there a hamper after this?
I'll give you your bag. How about I give you the Birdsong pouch and I give her the that'd be pretty cool. And thanks to BHIVE for giving us this lovely space on a Sunday. And our production crew, Max on camera and editing, Lila on makeup, and Lee on camera and lighting. So very Gen Z crew we have. And if you have further questions, submit them online and we will come back to you. Thank you so much for being a part of the first episode of the No Money Marketing Podcast.